Hey friends, episode 137. We're talking about why do we self-sabotage? Um, I'm excited to talk about this. So let's talk about what self-sabotage is. I think we're all kind of aware of it, but I want to pinpoint some things so it can create some awareness for you and you can kind of watch it in yourself and see like procrastination, um, perfectionism, and I'm going to switch that term up for you guys because a lot of us will be like, well, I'm not a perfectionist. Believing that there's a right way and a wrong way. It also comes in as like, well, I want excellence, or I want to do this to the best of my ability. All those are little sneaky ways that we're in kind of this perfectionism, right? And I don't think we have conscious thoughts thinking like, I need to be perfect. That's not it. Perfectionism is a childhood survival mechanism from childhood that says that there's a right way, there's a wrong way. There's we have to do things correctly and right, or we're going to get in trouble. So then we failed, and then we're not good enough, and we're not lovable. So then as children, we're really trying to do everything. I mean, look how school systems are built, right? Star student, A+, right? Student of the week, right? It's all feeding that like we have to do it perfectly. If not, we're failing. And if we're failing, then we are a failure. I kind of house that under perfectionism, right? What else is some of the other kind of behaviors that come out of this self-sabotage? Spinning in confusion. That's my brain's favorite. Or I don't know. I don't know. Right? Those are all kind of ways that we self-sabotage. And what it is, like, let's go from a compassionate way. I notice like the longer I'm a coach, the more like compassionate I get, because I just get a deeper knowledge of how the brain works. The reason we self-sabotage, it's a safety mechanism for our brain, right? Our brain is always for us, always. And it's always primary. I want to keep you safe. Just trying to keep you safe. Okay. So when we're trying to do new things or put ourselves out there or do things that are for other people, right? Like working a job or doing something or serving somebody else, right? And we don't have a lot of historical evidence that we are successful at that. So that's what we call confidence. We're all very confident in our ability to walk because we have a ton of historical evidence that we are successful. We did it right. We're good. We're safe. Okay. So when we're doing all these things, putting ourselves out there, and we don't have the historical evidence, it's unsafe for our brain.
Okay.
It's threatening for us, right? You could fail. You could be embarrassed. You could be rejected. You could feel disappointment, right? And all those things feel very threatening to our brain. Our brain is not able to distinguish between threatening. There's literally a lion at my door that wants to eat me, and I might try this thing and it not work the first time. Both of those feel like life and death threats to our brain. And if we take it to like a historical way, like looking at like tribes, when we lived in tribes, when we were cave people, right? There was limited resources. There was not a lot of food, not a lot of shelter, not a lot of water, right? So you really had to contribute to the tribe. You had to pull your weight, right? So our brain is also wired to make sure that we stay within the tribe. We're doing what it takes to stay in the tribe. Are we worthy enough, contributing, right? Because we don't want to be the weakest link. I do not want to be kicked out and left into the cold tundra alone for the wolves to eat me, right? So if we look at this way and we like have compassion for our brain that's just trying to keep me safe, and these new things or these things that I don't have a lot of confidence in feel very life-threatening to my body. So then, of course, my brain is going to create behaviors to shut me down, which we call self-sabotage.
Yeah.
right? We go into perfectionism, like, well, I don't, like, what's the right thing? I have an interview to do. Like, what outfit do I wear? What do I say? What do I put on my resume? What do I want to try this new career path, but I don't know how to create my own business or how to put myself out there, make tapes of myself or videos, right? Like, is it going to be right? Which one do I choose? All of that is housed in that perfectionistic thinking that I have to do it the right way to be accepted. And I don't know what the right way is. I don't know the right answer. So then that feels very threatening. So my brain's just going to go ahead, send me into confusion, send me into questioning, self-doubt, not knowing the right way, and just slow our progress down to a snail's pace.
Yeah. It's kind of as if your brain is kind of justifying, like, oh no, that's like scary and dangerous. So yeah, we're gonna put up a lot of roadblocks
Oh,
to protect you, but keep you from moving forward or trying that new thing.
Yeah, because I mean, if you think about it, I love analogies and I love visuals, okay? So imagine that you and I live in a cave, okay? And we've lived in this cave for a couple years now. And we know it's kind of cold in this cave and it leaks a lot, right? And we have a hard time keeping our fire. So there's some not great things about this cave. But we've never been attacked. And I know exactly where the blueberry bush is. And you know exactly where the water source is. And we know exactly the other animals' patterns. And we know no other tribes bother us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But all we get to eat is blueberries because there's no other food source. It's leaky. Our fire goes out all the time. So we're just kind of miserable.
Yeah.
Right.
But in its own way, it's still safe.
Still safe.
Still
so
safe.
My brain is going to want to keep me in that cave instead of letting me walk 400 meters to the north to a cave that is dry.
Yeah.
And my fire would stay lit. Mm-hmm. And I had access to blueberries, raspberries, and a banana tree. It's like, no, not going there. That's scary. We don't know what's over there. So we're going to stay in this cave.
Right. Yeah.
That's what it does. That's what it does for us, right? Even though you don't love your life, this leaky cave is better than the unknown journey to that cave.
Right. Yeah. I can see that now. Yeah. Because I think a lot of, I think a lot of us have a tendency to be a little bit scared of the unknown. Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But that totally makes sense of why we are a little bit fearful of the unknown. Yeah. Because our brain's trying to protect us. Yes. Yeah.
It's just outdated. It's the Oregon Trail computer system that's still operating in our brain. Yeah. None of us play Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
I mean, some of us might, but most of us don't, right? We're not on those type of computers anymore.
Right.
But that's still the operating system that's going on in our primal brain.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And then we just we believe it because we don't understand it. And it's like, well, I'm nervous, or we label it like I'm just a person that self-sabotages. It's it's a condition or something. Yeah. No, it's just a coping mechanism, a survival mechanism from, bless you.
Thanks. Yeah.
From your outdated software that's running right now.
Right. Yeah. Which I think we can still have an appreciation for that outdated software because it's kept us alive all these generations.
Yeah. Because if I go into the Amazon jungle right now by myself, I want the operating system to kick up on high gear.
Right. Yeah. But I see how it has a tendency to work against us when we're trying to explore new things and put yourself out there.
Yeah. So that's why we talk in Brooke's world and from the life coach school, she's whether you like her or not, the woman has created mind-blowing success. She hit 50 million last year in 1 year. Right. And that's why she'll teach us, and I teach my clients to do things that we've never done before, or we have very little evidence of, or we're not fully comfortable with. We have to access self-confidence. Trust yourself. I trust that I'll figure it out and I'll make the right decisions, because the decision I decide is the right decision. Believe in myself. Believe that I'll figure it out. that I will take care of myself. I'll create safety for myself. Have my own back. That means that I am not going to be an asshole to myself. If I fail or if I get rejected, I'm not going to make it mean anything about who I am as a human. And I'm willing to feel any and all the emotions.
Yeah.
Because I know they're going to come with me. Right. It's just there's no getting around it. Like, we're never going to feel to do something new, try something new, change your life. You're never going to feel like so easy. Just a little day at the swimming pool with my sunscreen. Got it. Like, you're not. It's going to be uncomfortable because the unknown lies on the other side. But that is the due you have to pay to create a life that you love.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And people aren't willing. A lot of people are not willing to pay that due. They would rather sit in their leaky cave, right? And just not feel that level of uncomfortableness than feel the level of uncomfortableness of putting yourself out there and doing something new and different to change your life to improve it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, that level of uncomfortableness, I know that's going to be different for everybody, right? So if that level of uncomfortableness like looks like and feels like this insurmountable wall, right, that they can't get through, how do you help people like maneuver that, or kind of hold their hand, or to be like, everybody feels uncomfortable, right? And even on a regular, like sitting in a leaky cave, you're cold, you're uncomfortable. Yeah. How do they, or how do we take that and say, okay, compare that, this new thing that's very big and scary, how can I either change my perception of how uncomfortable that's going to be compared to where I am that's uncomfortable?
We don't make being uncomfortable a problem.
Oh, okay.
It's just not a problem, right? Like, we make it a problem.
Yeah.
And we listen to it. Of course we listen to it. Fear is in a very strong chemical response within our body.
Yes.
Sensation. Yes. Right. And so we listen to it and we're like, oh, like I had someone that, like, I was a very good friend, and this was her philosophy on life. And I just kind of like, oh, okay, before, and now I'm like, are you serious? Her philosophy was like, it's not meant to be if it's not easy.
Oh, okay.
Right? I'm like, the fuck that is? Like, what? What is easy? Okay. So we have this idea, like, if it's not easy and if I don't feel comfortable and confident with this is the wrong thing.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to happen, right? That fear is it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. That fear is triggering, like, this is insurmountable. This is too big. I can't do it. I'll just go sit in my wet cave.
I see.
Right. So when we can just look at it and be like, yeah, like, this uncomfortableness, it's part of the journey. This is not a problem. It's just my brain trying to keep me safe. And if my brain is trying to keep me safe and it's sending me those signals, it's telling me, please, Kim, provide safety for me. So then it's my job to create safety for myself. That mountain's still there, but I'm going to start creating safety within myself. Right.
Yeah.
And how do I create safety within myself? It's like calming my nervous system, doing that inhale with an extended exhale for 2 minutes.
Right.
Just sitting there, inhaling and doubling the length of my exhale.
Yeah.
That's it. Or taking my hand on my heart and just like closing my eyes and being like, all right, baby girl, this is scary, but I got you. I'm going to be with you, and together we're going to do this. And I'm not going to beat you up. I'm not going to make it mean anything about you. I just know this is the price of success, is that we have to put ourselves out there and we have to try, and we're going to fail, but that's totally okay, because that's the cost of admission.
Okay.
Right. So then it's also like tapping. Like
Yeah.
we got to calm the nervous system because it's on fire. It's
Yeah.
wanting us to retreat, but it's like tapping or breathing or just sitting or writing all your thoughts out on paper. Like, okay, and people avoid doing this, but go to the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Okay, if I put myself out there and I spend 10 years building this business and then it fails or doesn't make the money I want, what am I going to do? What's the worst case scenario, right? I'll just go get another job and then I'll probably, knowing my brain, it's going to create something else,
Right. Yeah.
right? So
I s-
just lean into that fear. Like, well, what am I afraid of?
yeah.
This. Okay, well, what if this happens? How am I going to take care of myself?
Right. Yeah. In this, then you're having your back and building your self confidence when you do that. When you like follow that worst case scenario. Okay, so yeah, what if you fall on your face? What if, this is embarrassing? What if, yeah, you
What if
don't,
they reject you?
yeah, you
What if
get
they say, no,
rejected?
that's not good enough?
Yeah. Uh,
I know, like, if you go there, like, if you submit, like, let's say I have, like, I'm submitting to be a speaker, right? And you have to submit videos of you doing a 2-minute speech, right? Put myself out there. Like, what if they send me the email like, no, we did not pick you,
yeah.
right? Then follow that. Like, okay, I get this email. They didn't pick me. What am I going to do? What am I going to think?
Right.
Well, I can either think that they didn't pick me, therefore I'm not good enough and this isn't meant to be, and I'll jump on that train and throw myself under the bus. I
Yeah.
feel real shitty. Or I can decide, okay, they didn't pick me. I'm going to go back and I'm going to work on my skills. I'm going to get better and I'm going to resubmit until someone does pick me.
Right. Maybe it's not the right venue for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe, and I used to think this as a young, you saw me as a young entrepreneur. That was like, I would try one thing and if it didn't work, like I meant that it, like, and I made it mean like people don't want this. This wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Instead of understanding, like, yeah, that's the price of admission. Like as a new entrepreneur, you're going to be terrible at things. People
Yeah.
aren't going to want them. You're not going to know how to market well. Like, welcome to entrepreneurship. And you
Yeah.
keep working on your craft and you get better. Like that is how you don't go out for the varsity basketball team and have never played basketball and make starter. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah. That's very true. Yeah. I think that makes sense. Because I always thought it was about changing the perspective, and it is, but it's also, yeah, still encouraging and finding ways to kind of, yeah, find that evidence that, even though this is scary, we have tools to put ourselves in that parasympathetic state. So then you can step back, right, and kind of and be creative and analyze and walk through the scenarios of, okay, yeah, what could happen if I go through with this, and if it doesn't work out, okay, but then, yeah, also if I don't go, yeah, for what we're, yeah, something new, what would happen, right? Because if you're in that parasympathetic state, your brain is a lot calmer and more like kind of rational instead of this, yeah, fear based of putting you in that self-sabotage of nothing's gonna be enough, nothing's gonna be okay. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I found that yes, I love switching perspective. I call it switching models. I
Ah,
love it. It's fun when I can do that. Right. But if it's something that's like triggering a trauma response or it's triggering like a high sympathetic response,
yeah.
where it's like fear, our brain is so locked up into that primal brain part,
Yeah.
and we've got a ton of cortisol and adrenaline going at that point. It's very hard to switch perspectives because
Mhm.
your brain, your RAS, your reticular activating system is looking for evidence to validate those fears. And it's starting to go through all the historical data of your lifetime. Well, remember this chapter when we tried this and that didn't work? Or remember when we tried this and that didn't work? Remember when they told me no there? Like that's what your brain is in. So I think for me, it's easiest to push people to like, okay, So what? Like, we're not gonna make it a problem. This is where we're at. Your
Yeah.
brain and body is doing exactly what it's supposed to do,
Okay.
right? How do we calm it? How do we create safety for yourself, right? And how do you calm your body down?
Right.
And then from there, then it's easier to switch perspectives.
I see what you mean. Normalizing it, right? Like understanding
Yeah.
it's a normal reaction.
Yes.
That's what your brain and your body are going to do every single time to keep you alive. Anytime you have anything that's scary or threatening. Yeah, I understand. If you normalize it, then that makes it a little bit easier. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not like I do hate like the whole therapy world model of like where we label it and make it like a problem. There's something wrong with you,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Or this is unique to you. Like, no, you're fucking human. Welcome to the human experience. We have this spectrum of emotions and we have a brain that has Oregon Trail programming on it that thinks everything is uh what are the animals that are like prey? Like they're we're prey and they're predators, right? And then we have this other amazing part of our brain that loves to plan and dream and want more for our lives. And like, yeah, we just got to manage those two and see that they're both working and like which one serves us. Cause it's just going to be hard. Like, which hard do you want?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You get to choose that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. I like it.
Does that help?
I think that does help. I think it does help. Yeah. And I think that you're right. And because I'm also frustrated a little bit with the therapy world is when things get labeled like that, or and I know that we've kind of talked about labels before, but when we have a reaction or if that thought process is labeled, oftentimes people will internalize that,
Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I so this is terrible that I can't think of the term for this, but uh even like neurodivergent, right? Or
Uh-huh.
things that are atypical and you think, okay, my brain must be different because I experience this, because I feel these things, because this fear and this reaction keep me from doing things, right? Like I can't get past it. So then people will internalize that, right? And then they use that often as an excuse to be like, oh, they can recognize what's happening in my brain, but now they've just accepted it as, well, this is just what my brain does, and so now I still can't go forward. I still,
Yeah.
that's what keeps me from doing things. So when you normalize it like that, and I think it's helpful to help people understand. We all have a brain, right?
Yep.
And that primal brain is the same within all of us. It may translate things a little bit differently, but yeah, those neurochemicals and those signals are the same. Yeah.
Yep.
And you get to choose, right, how you're going to react to those feelings. Yeah. And those thoughts. So,
Yep. Yeah. And some people, like to each their own.
yeah.
Some people like their labels and they like, there's a question I ask in coaching. How is it serving you to believe this?
Right.
Because we have some shitty beliefs that we believe. Like, so I just coached a girl that was like, she's obviously middle class, but she has a belief that she's poor.
Yeah.
That belief is serving her in some way.
Right.
Right. So some people like their labels. It helps them. Fantastic. And
Yeah.
some people are like me, like, I'm not taking that fucking label.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on in my brain right now, Carmen? Like, is it my thoughts or is there a neurochemical thing that we need to balance out?
Right.
Solve either one of those and I'm going forward. Like, I'm not going to be boxed in by this label of whatever, anxiety, depression, neurodivergent. Like, no, you're not keeping me small in this box. Like, I figure out how to problem solve it and I go on because I want what I want and I'm not going to be held back.
Yeah. True. Yeah. Um, yeah. I think it's when folks well, okay, I guess I can't say that. I was just gonna say, I think it's sometimes a disservice when people internalize those labels and use them as an excuse, right? I'm not
I
saying,
don't even think they're consciously using them as an excuse.
oh, maybe that's the difference. I'd say, because
Right.
I know a lot of folks who will label themselves and they're proud of that label, and I totally understand that. But when
Yeah.
we use that as an, well, they may not recognizing they're using it as an excuse, but when you are limiting your success or when you're limiting your world and your situation because of that label, I think that saddens me sometimes.
Yeah. And like, I want to clarify, like, because I don't want any like asshole comments. Usually I don't get because I'm a little aggressive. We are not attacking people that have diagnosis, right? And we are not shaming you or being rude or minimizing your experience. Here's where I think our stance really comes from when you boil it down. I don't like those labels because they come with limitations
That's, yeah,
that the professionals have decided were around those. And then as people that trust the professionals, we embrace those limitations that they told us that comes with that diagnosis. And then we feel like we have to live in this limited world that this diagnosis has now given us. And there's no hope to change it. I'm just always going to be that way because the professional said so and they don't have another answer. That's what I'm always railing against.
yes, yes, yeah, yeah, because I have worked with, I mean, all walks of life, right? And some people who are very successful and passionate and love what they do with whatever label XYZ, right? It's when, yeah, you're exactly right. It's when that creates a limitation in their life. That's, yeah, what I'm glad that you clarified that. That's what I want people to be able to recognize is that it doesn't have to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you look at like, I can't remember what percentage. There's a very, very high percentage of entrepreneurs that are multimillionaires that are dyslexic.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? They just didn't like, fine, yeah, I've got this diagnosis. I understand now why whatever school's hard for me. Get it? Makes sense. Feel validated. But I'm not going to live in your limited box now that this diagnosis comes with.
Yeah. I went to naturopathic medical school with several people who had dyslexia, and they were very successful in our program. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. Cool. All right, guys. You know I love you. And you also know that, like, because out of love, sometimes we got to have hard conversations. All right. See you later.
Bye.